The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain and wet earth. James walked along the quiet streets of Willow Creek, his hands deep in the pockets of his worn coat. He had always liked mornings like this, peaceful, almost empty, as if the world itself had paused to take a breath. Yet today there was a subtle weight pressing on his chest, a quiet ache that he couldn't quite name, for as long as he could remember. James had felt slightly out of step with the world around him. The town was small, everyone knowing everyone else's business. And yet he often felt like a spectator, watching life pass by without fully participating. His apartment overlooked the main street. And every morning he would see couples laughing on their way to work or friends meeting for coffee, their easy smiles making him ache for something he could not yet put into words. Today, though, there was a glimmer of hope. He had agreed to meet someone he had admired from afar for months. Emma, she was the kind of person who seemed to carry warmth in her smile, light in her presence, and yet a quiet depth that drew him in. James had noticed her first in the library, tucked between the shelves, reading with a kind of focus that made the world around her disappear. Something about her calm determination and gentle laughter had stayed with him, haunting him in the most beautiful way. He paused outside the small cafe where they had agreed to meet. Steam curled from the windows, fogging the glass slightly, and for a moment he hesitated. What if she didn't feel the same way? What if this meeting was just another fleeting moment of longing, another dream that would dissolve as soon as he looked into her eyes? Shaking off the doubt, James pushed open the door. The bell above it jingled softly, announcing his arrival. Inside, the cafe was warm, a comforting bubble from the chill outside. The aroma of fresh coffee and baked bread wrapped around him like a hug, and he allowed himself a moment to breathe deeply. And then he saw her. Emma sat in the corner, her posture relaxed yet poised, a soft scarf draped around her shoulders. She looked up from her cup of tea, her eyes meeting his. For a second, the world outside seemed to disappear. The quiet hum of conversation, the clatter of cups and saucers, even the drizzle against the window wall of it faded as if it had never existed. "James," she said, her voice gentle, carrying just enough warmth to make his heart skip. "I'm glad you came," he forced a smile, feeling a strange mix of relief and nervousness. There was something about her being prepared, about the way she had already claimed her spot in that little corner of the world, that made him feel both welcomed and unworthy at the same time. He had imagined this moment countless times, yet reality always had a way of feeling bigger, more intense than dreams. He took a slow step toward her, noticing the small details he had never dared to observe before, the way her hair fell across her forehead, the slight tilt of her head, the careful way she held the mug between her hands. Every gesture was familiar yet new, like rediscovering a memory he didn't know he had. "Emma," said finally, his voice steadier than he felt, "it's good to see you." Her smile widened, and for a moment the world seemed right. James sat down, trying to settle the flutter in his chest. Conversation flowed slowly at first, tentative words building a bridge between them. They spoke of ordinary things, the weather, the town, books they had read, but beneath the surface there was a shared understanding, an unspoken recognition that neither of them had found with anyone else. James felt something awaken inside him, a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't destined to watch life pass by alone. There was something rare in Emma's presence, a combination of kindness, intelligence, and quiet strength that made him want to be better, to reach further, to hold on to the moment without letting it slip away as the minutes passed. The rain outside lightened, turning into a gentle drizzle. The gray of the morning softened, and the cafe seemed to glow with a kind of golden warmth, as if the world itself had taken notice of their small connection. And though neither of them said it aloud, both James and Emma felt the anticipation of something waiting to unfold, a beginning, a chance, a story that had only just started. James glanced at her once more, heart beating a little faster, and thought to himself that perhaps this meeting, simple as it seemed, could change everything. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, he felt that longing, sharp, tender, and alive, might finally be met with something real. The bell above the cafe door jingled again, pulling James and Emma from their shared memories. Both looked toward the entrance, their eyes widening slightly at the unexpected sight. A man with an umbrella and a kind smile stepped inside, shaking off the remnants of a morning drizzle. For a moment, neither of them noticed him, caught in the lingering warmth of their own connection. Then Emma's eyes met James's, and a subtle recognition passed between them, not of the newcomer, but of the moment itself. There was a strange, almost magical quality to that instant, as though the world had paused to give them a second chance. The interruption, simple as it was, reminded them of how unpredictable life could be, and how fate had a way of nudging people together. When they least expected it, James chuckled softly, shaking his head as if to clear his mind. "It's funny," he said. "After all these years, just a small moment like this, it feels like the universe is reminding us that we're still connected." Emma smiled, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of amusement and agreement. "I know exactly what you mean. It's like everything we've been waiting for all those years apart was leading to this one ordinary morning that suddenly feels extraordinary." They talked for a while longer, letting conversation flow naturally. The old familiarity returned easily, like a melody remembered after years of silence. Every shared laugh and subtle glance reminded them of the bond they had built long ago, a connection that distance, time, and circumstance had never managed to break. And yet beneath the surface of their words, there was an awareness of how fragile this moment could be, how easily life might once again pull them apart if they didn't seize it. It was then that a small, unplanned event changed everything. A little boy at a nearby table dropped his toy car, and it rolled straight toward James's feet. He bent down instinctively to pick it up, smiling at the boy as he handed it back. Emma's laughter rang softly, full of warmth, as she watched him. "That's just like you," she said. "Always noticing the little things, always thinking of others." James felt a familiar warmth spread across his chest. "I guess some things never change," he replied, glancing at her with a tenderness that had grown stronger over the years. The moment seemed ordinary, almost trivial, yet it ignited something neither of them had expected. A wave of emotions, intense and yet mature, a mixture of relief, longing, and hope. They realized that the years of separation, the missed opportunities, the quiet yearning, all of it had led to this day, to this chance to rediscover each other in the present. Emma's gaze softened, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine what life could be like if they didn't let fear or hesitation hold them back. "I almost forgot," she said quietly, "how it feels to just be with someone who understands you without having to explain everything." James nodded, understanding her completely. "I felt that way too. Even when we were apart, I carried a part of you with me. Maybe that's why this feels so right." The cafe outside had begun to fill with the quiet buzz of morning customers, the soft clatter of cups and chairs providing a gentle soundtrack to their reunion. And yet, for James and Emma, the world seemed to narrow, focusing only on their shared space, their shared understanding. Every glance, every smile, every word spoken in that corner felt amplified, meaningful, as if life itself had slowed down to give them a moment to truly reconnect. Then, unexpectedly, a small coincidence nudged them closer still. A notice on the cafe's bulletin board caught James's Aja flyer for a local community art show happening that very evening. Emma had always loved art, and he remembered the times they had wandered through galleries in the past, losing track of hours as they admired paintings, sketches, and sculptures. "Look at this," James said, pointing to the flyer. "The community gallery is holding a show tonight. I know how much you love these events. Would you like to go?" Emma's eyes widened in pleasant surprise, and her smile deepened. "I'd love that," she said. "It feels spontaneous. Just the kind of thing we should do." It was a simple suggestion, a small decision, yet it carried weight far beyond the moment. It was a step toward reclaiming lost time, toward embracing the present rather than dwelling on the past. It was an acknowledgement that the bond they shared was not just a memory, but something alive, waiting to grow once more. As they stood to leave, James noticed how naturally their movements sensed how easily their presence together felt right. There was no awkwardness, no hesitation, only the quiet recognition that the past had prepared them for this moment. And as they stepped out into the sunlight, the streets glistening from the earlier rain, both felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this day, ordinary as it began, could mark the start of something extraordinary. Soft cliffhanger. The streets of Willow Creek glistened under the late afternoon sun, the puddles left from the morning rain reflecting a soft golden light. James and Emma walked side by side toward the community gallery, their pace slow, almost reluctant, as if neither wanted to break the fragile bubble of their reunion. There was a gentle silence between them, one filled not with awkwardness, but with the weight of words they had never spoken, feelings they had never dared to name. James stole a glance at Emma. Her hair shimmered in the sunlight, and her eyes carried a quiet depth he had always remembered. He had rehearsed conversations in his mind for years, what he would say, how he would act, but now, walking beside her, words felt both powerful and fragile. What if saying too much broke the delicate connection they had just rekindled? What if silence was the safer way to keep it intact? Emma sensed his hesitation, her own heart stirring with emotions she had long tried to ignore. She had spent years imagining moments like this, replaying them in her mind like cherished films. And yet, the reality was far more intense. The longing she had carried for James, the quiet ache of wishing he had always been near, pressed against her chest. She wanted to reach out, to speak, but hesitation held her back. The past, with all its missed chances, made her cautious. She feared saying the wrong thing. Yet she also feared not saying anything at all. They arrived at the gallery, small brick building adorned with colorful posters and flowers in the window boxes. Inside, the air smelled faintly of paint and paper, and soft music played from a speaker tucked in the corner. The warmth of the room contrasted with the lingering chill of the streets outside. Art lined the walls, landscapes that evoked memories of long-forgotten days. Portraits that seemed to capture emotions words could not. And abstract pieces that invited reflection and quiet thought. As they wandered through the exhibits, James noticed how naturally Emma moved, her eyes lingering on certain paintings, her lips curling into small, thoughtful smiles. He remembered times they had wandered through galleries together in the past, losing track of hours talking about colors, shapes, and feelings. Now, the familiarity of it brought both comfort and longing. He wanted to tell her how much those memories had meant, but the words caught in his throat. Emma glanced at him, noticing his gaze, and felt a flutter of hope. She wanted to reach out, to bridge the unspoken gap, but she hesitated, unsure whether he would truly understand the depth of her feelings. The years apart had created a gentle wall between them, built from fear, timing, and circumstance. And yet, beneath the hesitation, a thread of connection pulsed quietly, unbroken and strong. They paused in front of a painting of a quiet river, the colors soft and inviting, the brushstrokes conveying calm and reflection. James spoke first, his voice low but steady. I remember coming across a scene like this once, years ago. It reminded me of the evenings I used to spend thinking about. Well, you... Emma's eyes widened slightly, her chest tightening. I remember those evenings too, she admitted softly. I thought about you more than I wanted to, and yet I couldn't tell you. I didn't know how. The admission hung between them, fragile but powerful. For a moment, it felt as though time itself had paused, allowing them to confront emotions they had long buried. The longing, the missed chances, the quiet ache of it surfaced in that one shared glance. Neither had spoken the truth fully before, yet both had carried it quietly, carefully, like a precious secret too delicate to reveal. James reached out slowly, brushing a finger against the edge of the painting frame as if testing the boundaries of courage. Emma, I've wanted to tell you for years that He stopped, swallowing hard, afraid that speaking too freely might shatter the fragile moment. Emma's hand lifted instinctively, hovering near his, not touching yet, but close enough that the electricity of unspoken words seemed to spark between them. James, I know, she whispered. I've felt it too. All this time, I've felt it. Neither needed to say more. The unspoken truth, finally acknowledged, filled the space around them with warmth and understanding. It wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about quiet recognition. About two hearts that had carried the same longing across years and distance. Finally meeting in shared understanding, they moved through the gallery in silence after that. Side by side, every glance and small gesture imbued with meaning. Each painting, each sculpture seemed to reflect fragments of their story the years apart. The moments they had missed, the hopes and fears they had kept hidden. And yet, in that quiet, unspoken acknowledgement, there was a sense of relief, of peace. The streets of Willow Creek were quiet now, bathed in the soft glow of the early evening sun. Shadows stretched long across the sidewalks, and the cool air carried a faint scent of fallen leaves. James and Emma walked together, side by side, their silence deeper than any conversation could have been. Yet beneath it, the tension of unspoken feelings pulsed like a steady heartbeat. They had left the gallery hours ago. But neither had felt ready to part ways. Every step they took seemed charged with memories, every glance heavy with longing. James felt at first the ache of years lost, the weight of the emotions he had carried silently, hidden behind casual smiles and polite distance. Today, he realized, could not pass without honesty. He stopped abruptly at the corner of Maple Street, the soft crunch of leaves underfoot, echoing in the quiet. Emma looked at him, a question in her eyes. James, what is it? She asked gently. He took a deep breath, fighting the tremor in his chest. Emma, I can't keep pretending anymore. I've tried to push it aside to tell myself the timing wasn't right. But the truth is, I've always cared about you. I've always wanted to be near you, to share a life with you, and I was too afraid to say it. Emma's eyes widened, the warmth of the evening reflected in them. She felt a wave of emotion, a mixture of relief, joy, and the lingering ache of years spent apart. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for his, finally closing the distance that hesitation had maintained for so long. James, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, I've felt the same. All these years, even when we were apart, I've carried the hope, the wish that one day we'd find each other again. And now that we have, I can't pretend either. The confession hung in the air between them, delicate yet powerful, a bridge built from vulnerability and courage. For a moment, they simply stood there, letting the truth settle around them. Feeling the weight of it and the freedom it brought, James reached for Emma's hand fully, holding it firmly but gently. I don't want to waste another moment, Emma. Life has a way of pulling people apart. But I don't want to let it happen again. I want to be with you not just in fleeting moments, but in every day we can share. Emma's eyes glistened as she nodded. I want that too, James. I want to share everything with you, the laughter, the quiet mornings, the challenges, even the small ordinary days that feel extraordinary when we're together. There was a pause as they absorbed the weight of their words, the intensity of the moment grounding them in a reality that felt both new and deeply familiar. The longing, the hesitation, and the years of unspoken emotions had all led to this instant the emotional turning point that would change everything. A soft breeze rustled the leaves around them, carrying with it a sense of renewal, as though the world itself recognized the significance of their decision. James took a step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. I don't know what the future holds, he admitted quietly, but I do know that I don't want to face it without you. Emma's lips curved into a gentle, radiant smile, one that spoke of relief, hope, and love that had endured the trials of time. And I don't want to face it without you either, she said, her voice steady now, filled with certainty. They continued walking, this time with a shared purpose and a quiet joy that seemed to lift the heaviness of years spent apart. Every step they took felt lighter, freer, as if the acknowledgement of their feelings had unburdened them both. The streets, once just a path between places, now felt like a journey together, leading towards something neither had dared to imagine until this moment. As they rounded the corner toward the park, James pointed to a bench under a large oak tree, golden leaves swirling at their feet. "Let's sit for a moment," he suggested. "Just be here together and let everything, settle in." They sat side by side, hands entwined, feeling the quiet comfort of each other's presence. The turning point had arrived not through dramatic gestures or grand declarations, but through honest words, shared longing, and the courage to confront their hearts. For the first time in years, James and Emma felt completely aligned, not just in thought, but in emotion. The past's shadows still lingered, faintly, but they no longer carried weight. The future was uncertain, yes, but it was theirs to shape, and for the first time, they faced it together with hearts unburdened by unspoken truths. As the sun dipped lower, casting warm golden light across the park, both felt a quiet certainty. The turning point was not an ending, but the beginning of something enduring, something real, and something deeply heartfelt. They had spoken their truth, and in doing so, opened the door to a shared life that had been waiting all along. Soft cliffhanger, just as they leaned back to watch. The last rays of sunlight. A distant sound, the faint ringing of a bicycle bell caught their attention. Across the park, a familiar figure appeared, one that neither of them expected to see. The moment felt full of promise, yet tinged with curiosity and anticipation. Who was coming? And how might this new presence shape the next chapter of their story? The park was quiet now, bathed in the soft glow of twilight. Golden leaves drifted lazily to the ground, carried by a gentle breeze. And the distant sound of children playing had faded with the evening. James and Emma remained seated on the bench beneath the oak tree, hands intertwined, hearts lighter than they had felt in years. After weeks of anticipation, months of longing, and years of unspoken emotions, they had finally acknowledged the depth of their feelings. The turning point had come, and now, as the day gave way to evening, there was a sense of peace that neither had dared to imagine before. They spoke quietly about ordinary things, the small plans of the coming week, their favorite books, the gallery exhibits they hoped to see, but every word carried a new meaning. Each sentence, each laugh, each shared glance reaffirmed the connection that had endured the distance of time and circumstance. For James and Emma, it was no longer about what they had missed. It was about what lay ahead. James looked at Emma, noticing the calm confidence in her eyes. "You know," he said softly, "I used to think that some things were out of reach, that maybe we weren't meant to be. But now I see that everything led us here. Every step, every moment apart brought us closer in the end." Emma's hand squeezed his gently. "I feel the same. I've carried hope for so long, and now that it's here, it feels more real than I ever imagined. Like we've finally come home, not just to each other, but to ourselves." They rose from the bench, stepping onto the path that wound through the park, the air turning crisp with the approaching night. Fireflies had begun to appear, flickering like tiny stars among the trees, and James couldn't help but feel that the world itself was celebrating their reunion as they walked. Memories of the past mingled with the hope of the future. The high school games, the library conversations, the gallery visits. The unspoken longings, all of it felt like a gentle thread connecting the two of them, weaving a story that was uniquely theirs. But now, for the first time, they were free to walk forward together without hesitation, without doubt, without the weight of unexpressed feelings. They paused near the edge of the small pond in the park, watching as the water reflected the fading light. James turned to Emma, his voice tender but steady. "I don't know what tomorrow holds, and I can't promise we won't face challenges. But I can promise this, I'll face them with you. I want to build something lasting, something real, and I want to do it with you by my side." Emma smiled, her eyes glistening with quiet emotion. "And I'll be there too. I've waited so long for this for us. Whatever comes next, we face it together. That's all that matters." The moment felt timeless, suspended between the memories of the past and the possibilities of the future. No words could fully capture the depth of their connection, but the simplicity of presence, the way they stood together, hand in hand, Hearts aligned spoke volumes as darkness settled over the park. The streetlights flickered on, casting a warm glow over the path ahead. They continued walking side by side, each step a promise, each glance a reassurance. The turning point had given them courage. The acknowledgement of truth had given them clarity. Now, the path forward was theirs to shape together. James and Emma paused once more beneath the oak tree, looking up at the night sky as stars began to emerge. The quiet beauty of the moment, the serenity after years of longing, filled them both with a sense of wonder. "It's beautiful," Emma said softly. Resting her head lightly on James's shoulder, "It is," he agreed, feeling a peace he had never known. Not just the sky, but this, us, everything. For the first time, they allowed themselves to fully embrace the emotions that had carried them through years of separation. There was no fear, no hesitation, only gratitude for the journey that had led them to this shared place of understanding and hope. As they walked back toward the streets of Willow Creek, the lights from the town casting a soft glow, both felt a quiet certainty. Life would continue with its surprises, its challenges, and its small joys, but they would face it together. The story they had begun years ago had reached a point of fulfillment, not through grand declarations or dramatic gestures, but through patience, honesty, and the quiet courage to speak their hearts. James and Emma knew the future was unwritten, yet it no longer felt uncertain or daunting. With hands held, hearts open, and a shared understanding that transcended words, they stepped forward.